Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my performance review of the Adidas Trae Young 3. So of course this is Trae Young's third signature shoe with Adidas, and it retails for 140 bucks, which is like, it's a little expensive for a third signature shoe, you know what I mean? But I guess they're trying to make his shoe a little bit more higher, upper echelon, you know, maybe pricing and also tech, right? But if you guys do want to cop, I try to leave an affiliate link in the description box. But let's get it started right off with the Tracciones, and the traction is pretty interesting. So we have a mix of like herringbone, right? We have where the translucent rubber is, and then here in the forefoot we have like this circle pattern. It kind of circles out on itself, but it's more like nubs, you know, like very thin, very soft nubs, you know what I mean? So if you're playing on an outdoor court, this probably is not the best idea, you know what I mean? Because the rubber, especially in the high wear area, you know, where the ball of your foot is, you're gonna be putting a lot of pressure right there. It's not going to be durable at all. It's super duper soft rubber, right? And even where the herringbone is super duper soft rubber. And I played with these on indoor court, and I see it's like fraying off a little bit already, and that's just indoor use, you know? So do not play with these on an outdoor court, right? So how does it perform on an indoor court? How is the stop? Its stop is actually pretty good, you know? When I first got it, it wasn't great, but I started to break it in and keep playing it, and actually it got to be pretty good. It's not amazing, however, and it's not top tier. I would just say it's pretty good, right? If you're playing on a clean court. However, if you're playing on a dusty court, it does pick up a little bit of dust, and it's just like you can't really wipe it off that easily. It's just a weird traction pattern. I think it just like traps dust inside of the actual rubber, because like when I was playing on a dusty setting, I would just keep sliding out and it wasn't good. And no matter how much I wiped, it just wouldn't have an amazing stop or good stop like I did when I was playing on a clean court. So if you're playing on a clean court, you should be fine. You know, again, it's not the best, but you should be okay. I feel like most people wouldn't mind it, right? But if you're playing on a dusty court, not the best option. Also, if you're playing on an outdoor court, it's also not the best option. Like, it's a pretty bad option. So traction was not amazing here in the Trae Young 3. And also another thing that baffles my mind is, why would you put holes here in the forefoot? Like, who put that there? Why would you put that there? You know what I mean? Because traction, if you have more surface area or you have more contact with something, you have better grip. You know, that's kind of how friction works, right? So why would you put two holes here where you're putting a lot of pressure, a lot of like weight onto your foot? You know, why would you want to do that? You know what I mean? So I guess I understand if it's here in the midfoot, because you don't really need it as much there. You're more on your forefoot most of the time, right? But anyways, traction wasn't amazing, right? Moving on to the heel to toe transition, it feels pretty nice. I just don't really like how flat it is, you know what I mean? So I definitely felt the flat shape a lot, especially running down the court, because it's a slapper, you know what I mean? And that's another thing that I don't like about Adidas's designs, is their flatter shaped soles. I love Nike, I love Under Armour. Under Armour does it really well, right? Especially with their Curries. It has a very nice curve shape, right? But here in the Trae Young 3, right? So here in the heel, we have a pretty, or actually really curved shape, which I do like, and also this exposed foam, right? It's super duper soft. I really like it. And then here in the forefoot, however, it's super minimal as far as the curve goes, right? But it helps that it has a lot of flex here in the forefoot, so it wasn't terrible, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like the Jordan 12s for me, because the Jordan 12 basically felt like a boot. I really didn't like playing those, which I don't really know how people play in those, but anyways, it still felt a little slappy, so I didn't really like that. But overall, it's not terrible because of the forefoot flex, right? And also we can see, I guess, like this midfoot shank plate a little bit. It's like this plastic that you can see through this translucent rubber, so of course that'll be better for torsional support, right? It doesn't really bend at all here in the midfoot. So there's the heel to toe transition. Moving on to the cushioning setup, that's definitely one of my favorite parts about this shoe. So we have light strike and also we have boost, right? So here in the heel, we have a lot of compression. It's soft, it's comfortable. And a court feel is okay. I would say it's around average. Like the forefoot's pretty low to the ground, but the heel is pretty high up off the ground. So you have a pretty high offset. And so, but the compression is super nice. And impact protection, if you're doing really hard landings, you're gonna be good to go. Even on heel strikes, like hard heel strikes, you're gonna be good to go as well because of the light strike cushioning. And also, we have boost, right? So as far as the insole goes, they're giving us their regular paper stock insoles. It's not that nice. But as far as the strobe board goes, the strobe board is on the stiffer side of things, but it broke in pretty nicely, right? So as I started to play in it, I could feel the cushion right underneath my foot be very soft and plush. It was very nice, right? It's not on the level of like the Wild 10s, right? Or like the AG4s, or even like the Shockwave 5 Pro with the very soft mesh strobel board. However, it's still really nice in the Trae Young 3. I like, so stepping covered, especially when you get going, is really good. You know, you have nice underfoot cushion, and then you have nice compression, you have nice impact protection. Core feel, I would say, is okay. It's not super bouncy, however, you know what I mean? Light Strike doesn't really have that much bounce, but you know, it's a pretty nice cushioning setup, and it felt very comfortable when I was playing in it. So overall, I really liked it, right? Now moving on to the upper, right? So they're calling this a future natural upper, and it's basically just like a knit, but it seems to have an underlaying material. There's a good amount of glue, it feels like, and it does feel pretty stiff, especially when you first get it, right? But when you start to play in it, break it in, and like the heat and sweat from your foot breaks in this material pretty nicely. It's still more on the like the stiffer and more supportive side of things, but it did get a little bit softer, which I do like, right? But I think it's a good balance of support and also keeping the material like minimal. So it feels really nice here in the forefoot, right? And then here in the midfoot, it stays pretty thin, but also supportive. It also seems to be like pretty glued down. And we do have some flywire cables. That is something that I am worried about, right? So the durability of the outsole does not seem great, right? And also the flywire cables that are independently acting as eyelets. It's not like the laces are also going through the upper. It's just only going through these flywire cables. And just like the D-Rose 8, if you do tighten it very tight as far as the laces go, it'll probably snap, right? These cables are pretty thin, so just be careful on that. And also for the tongue, there's like very minimal padding. There's only a few, like there's actually only 2 foam pads here on top, right? And that doesn't feel like that nice. It's not super plush, so it's basically just like a nylon material, right? And then we have some ventilation holes on it. So the tongue also isn't great. The ankle area, however, is very nice, right? We have a good amount of padding actually, and we have a nice Achilles pad, which feels very nice and plush and also improves lockdown. So the overall upper is pretty nice. I just don't really like the tongue all too much. I wish it was a little bit more plush. I wish it had a little bit more foam in it, but it's not bad, and it broke in pretty nicely, right? And now moving on to the fit. So I went up half a size for the Trae Young 3, and it fits me pretty well. And my foot goes pretty close to the edge of the shoe. There is a little bit of length. I feel like if I went true to size, it still would have been good. But going up half a size was still pretty good, right? And here in the toe box, I would say it's like a normal width, maybe a little bit more snug than normal. And also width-wise, I would say it's around normal width as well. It's not super narrow, not super wide, right? So overall, it's a pretty nice fit for me. I feel like if I did go true to size, I do like a very snug fit, right? So if I went true to size, it probably would have been a little bit better, but going up half a size also wasn't terrible. So if you want a really snug fit, I would suggest going true to size. If you want a little bit looser of a fit, then go up half a size. And if you have a very wide foot, probably go up a full size, right? But for me, it was a pretty nice fit. And moving on to the support and lockdown, surprisingly, the Trae Young 3 was actually very supportive, right? So like I mentioned before, this upper is very supportive. It's a pretty rigid upper, even though it doesn't look like it, right? And also, as far as the sidewall goes for lateral containment, we have a good amount of lateral sidewalls, right? So here in the forefoot, we can see these peaks in the foam that kind of like guard your foot from coming out of the footbed, right? So here in the forefoot, here in the midfoot, and also here in the heel. And there is this external TPU heel calendar, which looks very similar in design to the midfoot chain plate, which I think is a pretty cool design choice. So lateral containment, I was good to go. And even if you're a bigger dude, you should be fine, right? And also lateral stability is very good. Look at how wide the shoe is. You can see how much the midsole kind of protrudes out. Look at that. It's so wide. It's a very wide base. So lateral stability was also very good. And I didn't really have any issues with heel slippage or anything. My foot felt pretty locked into the shoe. However, there was a little bit of a problem here in the midfoot. It didn't feel super duper locked down even when I really cranked down the laces. I actually don't know the reason for that, but it just didn't feel super locked down here in the midfoot for me. But overall, support and lockdown was pretty good. All right, moving on to the weight of the shoe. If I remember correctly, it's pretty heavy, right? Yeah, 14.15 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 13.75? That's a pretty big weight difference. Interesting. But let's just say it's around almost 14 ounces, which is pretty heavy, right? So this shoe, I didn't like playing in it because of how freaking bulky this shoe is, right? So I don't know what it is, right? So if we compare with a lot of other shoes that are pretty much the exact same size. So let's say, for example, the LeBron 21, right? Look at how much bigger it is, right? And the fit it's not like the fit is big, right? The fit for me for the Trae Young 3 is good, you know? But still, look at how much longer the Trae Young 3 is. And I'm guessing that's because of the kind of like heel cushion. It's kind of like protruding out a little bit, as you guys can see. It's protruding out. And also it's probably because there's so much like padding here in the ankle area, like especially with this Achilles pad that is pushing my foot forward, so it feels like the fit's good, but it's just so freaking bulky and so heavy that I really didn't like playing this, right? And also the subtle things, like it's a slapper, right? It's not a super smooth shoe, and also the traction wasn't amazing. So all of that coupled together, this shoe just felt way too bulky, way too heavy, and I didn't really feel very quick when I was playing it, right? Also comparing it to the AR1s, look at that. It's pretty much the same freaking size. You know what I mean? So I don't like how the Trae Young 3 feels when I play in it. So if you're a guard and you're looking for a really lightweight shoe and also very minimal feeling shoe, this is a really bad option, right? If you're a bigger dude, however, and you're looking for a supportive shoe that has really good cushion and you don't really mind the heavier weight and also you don't really mind the bulkiness, then this should be fine, right? But it's made for Trae Young. Trae Young's small and he's a guard, so I don't really know how he's playing in this. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy playing it, right? And as far as the aesthetics go, I like it. It's a pretty cool looking shoe. I like the overall design. I really love the design on the midsole as well. But yeah, it doesn't play very well, right? So wrapping things up, yeah, it definitely, I'm not gonna be playing in this shoe, you know what I mean? Because of the reasons I just said. Like, I just don't know why they made it so bulky, especially here in the heel. That, like, look at how much bigger it is, you know what I mean? That's just crazy to me. And it just felt like I had like a break on my foot when I was playing, you know, just a really big, poofy shoe that I had to play in, you know? For example, like here in the AR1, the 808.3s, LeBron 21s even though LeBron 21s isn't super duper minimal, especially comparing it to like a very minimal shoe like, I don't know, like the Curry 11, it still felt way better than the Trae Young 3, you know what I mean? It felt like kind of more like an extension of my foot, especially the Curry 11 808.3, right? This shoe, no, it definitely felt like I had something on, especially like, I don't know, I had like a very thick pillow, which I think like it's a comfortable shoe, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, but it's just a little too bulky and heavy for me, you know? But anyways, that about concludes my review of the Adidas Trae Young 3. Again, if you guys do want to cop a, try to leave the link in the description box. I would mostly recommend it, like I said, for bigger dudes that prioritize cushion and support, right? But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.